Okay, so here is Microlab number 4. It should be a relatively easy one. I'll go through the steps and show you what to do, and then you do it and collect 12 bonus points. So first thing you're going to do is get some data. Now in the past I've had the data added in, but it's time to graduate up to getting data on your own. So here's what I want you to do. Go to this website. This is for the WVU GIS Tech Center, and look around the site a little bit, and eventually you're going to come across searchability or some other things that you can drop down menus and such. And what you're looking for is census tracts with population data 2010. That is literally the name of the thing that you're going to download. And it gives you different options, and I want you to download the data that's listed as UTM-83. And the reason is that data is already projected in NAD 83 UTM Zone 17 North. Now, you got to ask yourself some questions. Where are you going to download it to? Most likely your downloads or your desktop. Once you download it, you have to find it because it's a zip file, and you have to unzip it. And then where are you going to send it to? Well, you can send it to the same place where the zip file is, or you can send it to some other place, like your working folder or wherever. I don't care where you send it to, as long as you know where you sent it to, so you can find it. Next, you're going to open up an ArcGIS ArcMap document, and of course the first thing that always pops up is this ArcMap getting started thing where it wants you to pick something, and you're not going to pick any of these. You're just going to hit cancel down at the bottom right, and when you do, it's going to open up as a default, as empty could be, ArcMap document, and it's going to look something like this. At this point in time, you can add your data in. Now if you don't remember how to do this, right underneath the word selection at the very top toolbar on ArcMap, there's a little yellow triangle, or I'm sorry, square rather, but it's sitting like a diamond. So I guess it is a diamond. A little yellow diamond with a black plus. That is the Add Data button. If you simply click on that, it'll allow you to add data. Your Add Data GUI, or graphic user interface, pops up, looks kind of like this. You need to find that data that you just extracted, and in that extracted folder you will find census tract, census blah blah blah. Now, if you can't find it, right next to where it says look in, underneath the words add data, there's a drop down there that allows you to select the different folders of things that you could potentially be looking at. If it's not in that list, that means you haven't got a connection to that folder. In which case, you go over to the right a little further, over to that folder with the little black plus. That is the Add Folder Connections button. And you work through that just like you have in the previous labs and stuff in class. And eventually access your unzipped data folder, not the zip folder, the unzip folder. And go through that process of clicking add, and then depending on whether you open it completely up to the actual shapefile, or if you just click add when you hit the folder, it'll then open up to this anyway. Ultimately, you want to add this shapefile that I have highlighted here. And when you do, you see all the census tracts in West Virginia. And we're going to start this process of how you can select some things, sort some things, and export some things. So let's open up the attribute table, and you can see that there are 484 tracks. You wonder where I get that from? Bottom of the table. Currently selected 0 out of 484, right down there next to the bottom left side. Lots of different ways I could select things. I could go up here and just click on those little gray boxes to the right, and through a combination of holding the shift key or down and whatnot, you can select groups or just individual ones. Play around with that and see what it's like. If you select something you don't want, up at the top of the screen you see there's like 4 little buttons. The first one is a menu, the second one inverts the selection, or changes the selection, different things there. Anyway, as you get on across, the first button that's grayed out, well, if I had data that was selected, that would be the one that would allow me to unselect things. So if you select something you don't want, you simply click that button and it just gets rid of all your selections. So in this case, I clicked the little gray box to the left of the number 6 FID for that row. Held the shift key down and went down and clicked on the one next to number 14, and that selected that entire set. Now, if I were to close my attribute table up or move it out of the way and look at the actual ArcMap document that's displayed now, you can see that some of these tracks are now highlighted. That is called linking, and basically when you select something in the attribute table, it links it to something on the physical map. And going back to our data, you can see that now from where I selected those, I have 9 out of the 484 are currently selected. Next, I'm going to show you how to use something else called Select by Attributes. Now, up there in the top left of the table, the attribute table right behind this GUI, at the far left, there's a little drop down. And one of the things that is on there is Select from Attributes, or Select by Attributes. And what this does is allows you to do a couple of different things. I want to point out something. See where it says Method? If you're starting out and you want to select and create something new, you have to have that set to create new selection. There are other options like select from current selection, things like that, that can mess up what you're trying to do. So be careful. So what we're going to do here is create a new selection, and we're going to look at the different census tracts in the different fields. And what I want you to find is all the tracts where the population, where the census tract population numbers for black was greater than or equal to that of white. Then click Apply. Now, before you do this, cautionary note. See how on the table behind I have some polygons selected but not others? If I don't clear that selection before I run this tool, it's only going to apply it to those ones that are selected, and I'm not going to find much of anything. So, if you have things currently selected, go ahead and just X out. Don't hit the close button. Go up and hit the X out button at the top of your Select by Attributes. Then clear your selected features using that Clear Selected Features button. And then do that process again of going to the far left right below the word table, clicking the drop down, going to Select by Attributes, and then putting in the black field greater than or equal to white, and then click Apply. Now when you do this, you're going to find 2 census tracts where this is in fact the case. So what does that look like on the map? That's a really good question. And one that we're not going to worry about, because I'm going to show you another way of selecting things. So up at the top, right underneath the word Insert, you'll see on this screen there's a little button there that shows some map stuff selected in a white colored pointer, and it's and right immediately to the right of it there's a box where it looks like nothing is selected. The Nothing is Selected box is your Clear Selected Features. So I'm assuming right now you've got those 2 census tracts selected. I want you to hit that Clear Selected Features. They will then clear off, and then you can click on that next button there that you currently see the little blue box around here on this image, and that allows you to select by location. Literally manually select with your mouse. And so if you click on an individual tract, it selects that. If you click and hold down and drag your mouse diagonally to draw like a box, everything in that box, or everything that touches the edges of that box, intersects that box or is in that box, gets selected. And so I drew a little square here at the base of the Eastern Panhandle, and from that you can see it selected a group of counties, which I can then pop open and look at the attribute tables and see what they selected. Turns out there were 18 census tracts that were selected in that process. Or I could have done a different one, and maybe I only got 10. How do we export stuff? Well, this is a really good question. So there's a 2-step process. The first is you have to make sure the data that you actually want to export is what is selected. So if for some reason these 10 census tracts here are the ones that I want, I simply, while they're selected, go over into my table of contents in my ArcMap document, right click on my data layer, my census tract, census blah 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 layer, and when I right click on it, I go down to the word data, click on that, I go over to the right and down to export data, and you get this. And you see here under export it says selected features. That's your opportunity to make a new data set that only consists of the data that you currently have selected. Now it's important to look where the output is, because that's where it's going. And so if you need this data for something, you need to know where it's going. and then you just simply click OK. And then voila, there are those counties that we'd selected, and you can see how they've exported it as export output because I didn't change the file name. That's bad GIS work if it's doing something permanent. If you're just playing around, it's perfectly fine. And you see that it added into my table of contents, and I unchecked the box next to census tracts so I can see just those counties. Or census tracts, I'm sorry. So, now, how do you get your 12 points? What I want you to do is select by attributes to find all the census tracts where there are more females than males. And then afterwards, you're going to export that as a new data set. Here's your big hint. Remember, right-click on the data itself in the table of contents, go down to data and across to export data. Don't forget that. And once you've done that, I want you to uncheck your old data so that it only displays the new data that you made. And when you do that, it should look something like this. So just to recap, on the data that you brought in, clear all the selected features so nothing is selected. Then go select by attributes to find census tracts where female is larger, greater than males. And then after you do that, export it, which basically is this way of you've done this process of selection and then creating a new data set. And when you get something like this in the end, all you got to do, take a screenshot of it, save it as a PDF or something, and upload it to the file upload link in the quiz for this final Microlab. Good luck.